Hi, beautiful souls. It's Tan here again with you on this Astrology, Human Design, and Gene Keys channel. And today I'm here with Adriana Felix. You've seen her before. We're continuing our series on astropsychology. So we made an introduction video to astropsychology. If you haven't seen that yet, I highly recommend that you check it out. So I'll provide a link to that up above in the description box below. So watch the introduction video, and then you can come back and watch this video today, which we're going to be doing, talking about anxiety in psychology and possibly astrology as well. So, Adriana, what is anxiety? Let's begin with that for the people who are wondering what exactly it means, this word anxiety. Can you help us clarify that?
Yeah, so I'm actually gonna give the what the DSM-5, which is the manual for mental diseases, has on this. So anxiety disorders develop from excessive fear and anxiety. So fear is activated when you feel like you're under a threat. So it's an emotional response to a threat. And fear is the anticipation of that threat. So anxiety disorders, like you can have general anxiety, but usually you have your anxiety attached to something, so an object or a situation. And these are the classification that we use as psychologists. And also, we usually evaluate the intensity of the anxiety, because this is very important for us to evaluate. But yeah, these are the things that sustain anxiety. And it seems simple, but, it has some twists to it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like the way that you used the word fear there, because I think I never really thought of anxiety as being coming from fears, but now that you said that, it makes a lot of sense. Can I just clarify, like, these fears, are they mainly like fears that have to be about the future, or can they be fears of something that's in the past to cause anxiety?
Okay, so I'm going to bring an illustration right away so we can really understand how these things develop and what it means to have these emotions in our bodies. So we are humans and we're kind of fragile. So if you look to the first man on the planet, I can give you like a situation. So you had to hunt. And so you were not the only one hunting. There were other animals hunting. So it's normal to feel fear because, you see how other animals kill you, right? And imagine now that you've been hunting for a while. And now before going hunting, you start feeling fear. So usually you feel fear by experiencing the things itself, like having an animal threatening you. And that's fear. That's pure fear. But now you're developing something before. You're feeling the fear before the situation itself. It's there. So that's anxiety. That's you're already manifesting the feelings in your body, the symptoms of fear, but there's nothing there to scare you at that point.
Ah, that makes so much sense. So in the case of the illustration, it's kind of like you're having this fear for the future, but it is coming from something that had happened in your past, but doesn't mean that it's going to happen again just yet. It's just kind of coming there. It's almost like a form of like self-protection or a way of helping you in a sense.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I was going to say that, it's kind of natural to have some anxiety. You should be a little bit anxious if you're hunting for animals in the wild. But when it starts to get really bad and, with no reason to fear, like imagine these men waking up at night with nightmares and fearing the hunting before, they ever hunt, that's toxic anxiety. That anxiety is turning into a mental disorder.
Which we're going to get to in a little bit. So what are some of the symptoms of anxiety? How would you know that you have it?
Okay, so I'm going to answer again with the criteria that you have, and you can find this on DSM-5. So you will have inadequate feelings of fear and anticipation, given your circumstances. So you can be suffering from trying to predict outcomes, right? Or you can feel like a constant worrying about losing, some kind of thing or person in your life. So those feelings are not adequate to the circumstances that you're living. That must be like the baseline of identifying anxiety. It doesn't make sense that you fear that circumstance at that level, right? That suffering level. And you're going to have fear, anxiety, and escapist kind of behavior. So that is another criteria for identifying anxiety. And another criteria that is, every disorder needs to have this is the suffering that you're having is clinically relevant. So it's affecting your life to the point that you don't do your life normally. So these are the criteria to identifying anxiety.
Right. So I could have these thoughts. What would be the physical like symptoms of anxiety? Because I could have these thoughts about death or bad things happening to me, but if it doesn't affect the way that I feel or my body, then it's just like a thought, right? So what would you say? How would somebody know like what would be happening in their body?
Okay, so are you ready to go through the rabbit hole that is anxiety and anxiety symptoms? Okay, so
Yes.
Even studying for this and studying psychology, when we get to anxiety, it's like everything pops up, and there's a lot of comorbidity with other psychology disorders. So a lot can come up because you're putting yourself into thinking that there is something threatening you. So you're signaling your body that something is coming, but it's not. So your body is going to translate the way that it can. So you can have everything. You can have rashes, you can have stomach pain, you can have headaches, you can have fever, you can have the list goes on and on and on. But there are some characteristics that we can identify in people that struggle with anxiety a lot. Like they are the type of people that are very spooked. Like everything spooks them, and they have a lot of nightmares, and they can have like little phobias, like fear of animals. They can have fear of dark places. They can always be imagining that, someone is going to rob them. They can fear thieves coming into their houses. So this kind of always on defense mode. Yeah.
So, wow, that's super helpful there. So would it be correct in me saying that like these symptoms that are happening in the body are going to be the ones that might actually be there if that fear were to actually happen? So if I was fearing a bear and there was no bear around, then what's happening in my body is preparing to kind of protect me from that bear, or kind of be in a fight or flight mode to help me to cope with that bear. But it would just be there without the bear being there. Would that be correct?
Exactly. So you're triggering your fight or flight mode. And because it's, fear triggers that. And the thing is, When we were trying out in psychology school, when we were trying out some consultations with our colleagues and really doing therapeutical sessions with our colleagues, when one of us was an anxious person, that would be very noticeable. It's the person that sits in front of you and starts, just talking. And so this, and I feel that, and I don't know what about this, because I know I'm going to feel anxious, so I don't do this. So I'm already preparing for this, and blah, 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 because these are the voices inside of, people's mind. Also, you can have the people that completely shut down. They don't talk to you. Imagine seeing a bear. You're like,
yeah,
I'm gonna die. It's like, so the range of symptoms that you can have with anxiety, it's crazy. The manifestations that anxiety can have on your body is crazy. But it doesn't mean when you start developing anxiety and having those feelings on your body, anxiety can begin a physical disease in your body, because it's so constant and it's so persistent that you can actually develop some kind of disease in your body. And I cannot assure you that if you're healed from your anxiety, that you heal from that. So it's a very serious subject.
Right. Wow. So the next question I have for you, I think maybe you already mentioned a little bit, is like, how do you know if you have like a clinical type of anxiety where, you maybe should see a specialist, or whether you're just an anxious person? What's the difference there?
So I want to be really clear about this. If you are experiencing some symptoms of anxiety that are not allowing you to go on with your usual life, you need to go see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. You have no idea how can this escalate. I don't mean to scare you, but it begins with avoiding, like, going to the shopping center. Oh, it's a lot of people, and it starts with that, and it can escalate for, I don't want to leave my home. This is where I feel safe. And if you have the possibility, you can even consult a psychologist, having no problem at all. Just I want a space to talk about my problems and how do I say, ventilate?
Vent.
Just to vent. So, I would always recommend seeing a mental health professional, but especially if you're feeling this, target these symptoms as soon as possible.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's interesting that you mentioned that it's like, it's always, I mean, if you have something, just vent to like a therapist, a counselor of some kind. Sometimes you just need somebody to talk to who's not like somebody that you personally know, that they're not going to be emotionally invested. They're just there to really listen from a detached place. So I think I have a little question here in terms of, like, when you say that anxiety becomes clinical when it really affects your life. So if, for example, somebody, let's say they had a dream of like being a singer, for example, but they kind of avoid, doing that because they feel some kind of fear or anxiety towards it. Is that considered something that would be clinical? Or because it's not something like going to the store, it's not something that you need to do, that you can't do. It's something that you have a choice. How do you feel about that? What would you say?
This is a very valid point you're making. So I did say what DSM-5 considers clinical anxiety. I didn't say what I think about anxiety. And the thing with that, the procrastination, it's not only anxiety related. It relates to a lot of things, and each person
Mm-hmm.
is a person, right? So I don't connect that with anxiety right away. But if you're telling me that this person doesn't do that because she's anxious, like she's having symptoms of, belly aches, and she faints before even opening her mouth to sing, you know, you need to have some kind of help. So clinical, what do we mean with clinical? Because we need to be scientists when approaching psychology, right? Everything that you do inside a psychologist's office, it's like the tests that you make are randomized. So they are scientifically approved. And of course, we as psychologists have an order to respond to. So we need to behave within those criterias. But where I'm going with this is, all right, so if you come up to any psychologist's office, the psychologist is going to start by targeting your anxiety and later develop that dream, or work towards gaining confidence. So we need to solve that problem first and really understand the root of it and treat it, and only then we can. It's like in psychology, we always have to see things as equal to everyone, and that's not fair. But at the same time, we need to do that to be functional. So, even though your anxiety is related to performance, let's start by targeting the anxiety point, right? And then we can develop to understand your performance issues and then gain confidence and so on. But, everything is always a matter of your history. It's very personal in the individual. So, yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's not just always one thing. Like it's not always that it's just anxiety. It can be anxiety coupled with a bunch of other things that has happened in your history and your past. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, that makes total sense. So I guess the next thing I want to ask you is something that what a lot of people on the channel might be waiting for, and that's linking astrology to anxiety. What do you think about it? Do you think there are any birth chart indicators that shows that someone may be more prone to anxiety?
I do, but I also don't.
Don't.
And the thing is, like, we've been talking about anxiety, and our anxiety can be so many things. I always say that anxiety wears many masks. So, you can treat a symptom of a bellyache, and all of a sudden you have a rash on your back, and you're like, what is that? And you don't even relate it to anxiety, but it's your anxiety trying to manifest in other ways because you treated your stomach pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, about the planets and aspects in your natal chart. I have an opinion, okay? I have some things that I believe that are very triggering for your anxiety, but I want to preface that you can have any chart, and develop anxiety. It's such a broad kind of thing to have that, it's not just people with this aspect or that will develop anxiety. I do think that, Mercury placements, Mercury aspecting the moon will trigger some kind of rapid thinking. But like in everything, oh my God, I need to share this. So like in everything, energy is dual, right? So I had a teacher telling me like the most severe cases of anxiety we're also brilliant people. And so one would think that with so many blocks, when having anxiety, with having so many blocks, that you are not going to be a person who performs well. And that's not true at all. People who perform well usually have anxiety because they're so they're anticipating everything, so they perform really well. And the same applies to aspects in your natal chart, like having an aspect between Mercury and the moon. You can express your emotions beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can connect those energies in a beautiful way. But you can also experience that rapid thinking, like Gemini moons. I mean, that must be crazy to have a Gemini moon. I can't even start to be like wonder what it means to have a Gemini moon, having all those thoughts, like what could have been, what can I make it to be? And having those rapid thinking, that's the description of anxiety. So I would relate that to some kind of anxiety. But also, and this is very personal, I think the Pisces Virgo axis is very activating for anxiety. So you have Pisces, the dreamy, the flowy, and then you have Virgo, like get your things together, get your head in the game. And like it's like trying to control like this energy that is floating all over. And Virgo is like, just but you have to perform, but you have to do this, but you have to make a list, but you have to blah, blah. So this energy can be very chaotic. And I also relate this to the spiritual and the practical, the body, the organic. So if you are a sensitive person, spiritual sense with spiritual sensitivity, if you are a medium, you most certainly will have some kind of weakness in your body. So you will see a lot of mediums have like debilitating diseases or suffering from mental disease, because the spiritual plane is a lot to filter, and it's very transcendent, and this body is very limiting. So, and I don't know what better axis to describe this than the Virgo Pisces axis. And also Virgos, I mean, they will put every thought in their body. If they're fear, they're going to feel it in their stomach. If they're exciting, they probably need to go to the bathroom more often. Like they will put everything in their bodies. So, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Coming from an astrological perspective, with Mercury, Moon, Pisces, Virgo, definitely. I would even add Uranus in that mix in some ways, especially if it's making an odd aspect to Mercury, like in conjunct to Mercury, or sometimes just conjunct or square to Mercury or opposite to Mercury. That's a kind of aspect when your thoughts kind of never stop. You never breathe enough to just stop thinking. And that can spiral your thoughts into various different, who knows where. But then again, that's an aspect of somebody who can also be quite a genius, who can think outside the box, who can be inventive, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I want to talk a little bit about my own experience, because I think I mentioned to you previously that I have with Mercury in my first house that I sometimes feel like I'm very anxious. Not only that, but I have that, Pisces, Virgo, midheaven, IC, North Node, South Node axis. And I can totally relate to what you're saying. But then again, I can feel anxiety in my body. Like anything that I'm doing, like if I'm doing something for the first time, just going outside sometimes to do something gives me something in my stomach, but I do it anyways, because although I know that something bad can go wrong, I'm rational enough to be like, that's not going to happen, right? So I don't have clinical anxiety or anything, but it does happen. But I do want to say here that with the various different jobs that I've had, like I used to be an English teacher before, I used to be a journalist, like doing live reports on television before. And you can imagine how much anxiety that would stir up to be live. But that also having anxiety like is really helpful because it helps me to be really prepared. Like before I go live, I make sure that I have things written down, notes and everything that I'm going to say. I make sure that I've interviewed everybody. I make sure that I prepared my slides for my classroom. I've checked, every student's work, that I'm there on time or even before time for the classrooms. And so I'm always prepared, maybe even sometimes a little overly prepared. But then again, like I check everything, many times just to make sure it doesn't go wrong. And so I think that anxiety can help sometimes with like some of your performance because it does make you kind of thorough. That's also like the Virgo energy as well, like being very thorough and kind of checking everything and making sure everything's working fine. So yeah, just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. You know what? A good strategy. I mean, we use this in psychology. We need to acknowledge that we have those feelings. And, if you have clinical anxiety and, you suffer a lot from it, you need to control it. But if you have those, easy butterflies, give it a name. So call it Tinkerbell or whatever. You can just say, Tinkerbell is here. Oh, I'm feeling Tinkerbell.
Oh, that's so cute.
Hi, Tinkerbell. Why are you here? And she's gonna tell you, or he, or whatever you wanted it to be. She's gonna tell you like, well, I'm here because you step out of your house. Why did you do that? I did that because I enjoy being in nature. I enjoy spending my time, seeing the sky. So you're actually having a conversation with your feelings and you're acknowledging, okay, Tinkerbell, you know what? You don't need to feel like that. And this is not childish. This is a very practical thing you can do. Okay, so if you want to give it a very an empowered name like Hulk. Hulk is here. Oh my God, it's so big. Oh my God.
Superman.
I feel like everyone can see him right now. Oh my God. Well, why are you so big? Like, why are you here right now? Well, I got nervous, so I got big. So something like that. So engage with your anxiety because they always have a message. Every single thing that manifests in your mental plane is holding a message, like a subliminal message. So don't be afraid to face it and have a chat with it. We call this like the to share exercise in psychology. Like you have this on emotional focus therapy, which I like very much. And it's putting your fear outside of you and listen to it because, you may have developed that fear, that anxiety early in your life, or, it can be, you can bring those kind of traumas response from not so good experiences. So you need to acknowledge. You need to be patient to acknowledge those feelings and hold space for them. Only then you can, start regulating. And when you realize you're going outside without feeling that feeling.
Wow. That's nice. That's beautiful. So I guess the next question that I have, Adriana, is what do you think? Do you feel like there's some aspects in the birth chart that can help reduce anxiety?
Hell yeah. So I didn't mention, but a thing that is, I think, considered to be very important when approaching mental disease and astrology is, taking a look at your modalities and your Okay, earth, air, and
Elements.
elements, and your elements. So you can work with those. So you can develop anxiety if you are an ungrounded Taurus, right? If you take that groundness to Taurus, you can feel like, oh my God, where do I go now? I'm floating. So anxiety. So creating some kind of grounding can help your Taurus placements. So I think your signature sign can help you a lot. So I'm a Capricorn signature. I have a lot of Taurus placements and everything, but my modalities and my elements add up to Capricorn, and that makes a lot of sense because I need that Saturnian kind of energy to feel comfortable. I need those structures. I feel great working a lot in an healthy way, of course, but I feel great working, having a sense of purpose, of thinking about, business and business ideas, and that's my comfort zone. So, and I need to be grounded at the same time because this is an earth sign. So I think your signature can really help you to understand the elements and the modalities that you can work with, but also placements like Venus. Venus can bring you comfort. So if you have a Pisces Venus in the 12th house, like, you need to be creative. You need to engage with the things that bring you pleasure, right? So there are a lot of things that can help you heal from anxiety and everything else, but especially anxiety, being such transversal kind of issue, I would just go with anything that is very preeminent in your chart.
Yeah, I want to say something here that I think might be ironic, but it kind of popped up because it links to like the gene keys and human design a little bit. But I think that there's something about some Gemini energies that can actually help with anxiety. Though you may not really think that because there's a particular degrees of Gemini. I think it's the beginning degrees of Gemini. And it falls into like gate 20 and gene key 20. And that's the gene key in the gate that moves up to the city of presence. So it goes from the shadow of superficiality, the gift of self-assurance, the city of presence. And Bella and Ashley on Unlock Your Design calls it the tranquil. So it's that Gemini that uses the mind for meditation, for contemplation, because Gemini is all about the mind, right? So you can use the mind to constantly think and to worry, but you can also use it for being in the moment. So kind of really focusing on what's in front of you, because that can, I think, help to lessen that fear and anxiety of things that could be incoming that's not yet coming, right? And like taking yourself back to like, oh, I'm going to go out into the forest and hike. There might be a bear, but where am I now? Oh, I'm standing here. This grass looks so nice. It feels so soft on my feet. So just coming to the present moment. And there's that particular like Gemini code, Gemini gene key that can do that.
Oh, nice. I mean, expressing the things that you're feeling really helps. So anything you can do to really express what are the things that you're feeling, that you're going through, to actually narrate, but narrate from the point of presence. So yeah, that can really be helpful.
Yeah. So I think we've covered quite a lot and maybe covered most of the things that we wanted to discuss. Do you have any last message for anyone out there who might have anxiety, whether that's just on a daily, like just anxiety, or whether they have clinical anxiety? Any messages for them there? How can they cope to deal with this?
I mean, first of all, if it's something serious that is affecting your life, go seek help from a mental health professional. I cannot stress this enough. And if you are someone that feels like your life is all tinted with bits of anxiety, sometimes anxiety from a spiritual perspective, it might give you hints of what you might want to do with your life, with your purpose. Because the other side of anxiety is excitement. It's kind of the same thing.
Ooh, I like that.
It's the excitement energy, right? Because you're anxious is a very volatile energy. But if you're expressing it in the wrong way, if you're manifesting it in the wrong way, you're going to be stressed. But if you're expressing it in the right way, you're going to be that, what you just said, be present and talk and put it out there and be enthusiastic. So you can just translate that, feeling of anxiety. Why do people want to be singers or, be in front of the camera, feel so much anxiety? Because they also feel very excitement from doing these things. So, nurture yourself and try to understand what are the triggers to that anxiety. It's not, this is not a message for everyone because sometimes it's really just a problem, but sometimes it's hints of what you can do and what you should be chasing.
I love that. And when you said this, I was thinking about again, Gene Keys and Gene Keys 51, which is Aries. And that 51 goes from agitation to initiative to awakening. And that is a gene key that I would associate most theoretically with anxiety, because you really have those fears of the future and things that's coming to the agitation. But then you can take initiative. You can do something, you can, of course, you can have the more negative version, which is just throwing off steam and just really getting adrenaline in a very reckless way. But you can also use that to take action in your life, to do something about your situation. And then, you reach awakening, which is quite beautiful.
Yes, I love it.
So I guess that's it for this video. If you guys out there are, feeling and resonating with what we say today, then comment below and let us know what your experiences have been. If you like this video, then give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of the content that Adriana and I have been creating together, you can also support us on Patreon. Adriana has a podcast going there where she's talking about psychology, astropsychology. So yeah, do check it out and support us there. And also, Adriana is on TikTok as well. She's creating content there. So I'll provide a link to her TikTok in the description box below as well. You guys can check it out. So I think that's it for today. Yeah. Anything else you want to say, Adriana? All right. Then wishing everyone a lovely day. Bye.